Iron Stories, Episode 18, River. Welcome back to another episode of Iron Stories. So last time we completed the WoW or task for this Wrathful Hound, where we encountered this underkeep of specters, what it's called, where we found some kids that had a similar fate as the bear on the island of the expedition of Lost Crag, and we also found a mine which apparently seems to have been housed to some thing which we escaped. We came back to this village, which is called Thornfields, which is where the kids came from, and this was overrun by boars, which we could dispatch quickly and easily after some misfortune in climbing by Katania. But after that, we delivered the bad news to the village people, and at that point, there is nothing much more to hold Jebran or Katania in this village. They're restless. They want to travel further to that, and in the night, Katania had a dream or vision or experience or whatever you want to call it, where she where the spirits that she encountered they encountered, well, mostly she encountered in the mine seem to have been crossing over to the afterlife or whatever, and she got a bit more experienced with her spirit weapon, with her keen. So that's where we have left off. We basically leveled up what you could call level up in Ironsworn anyway. And I also decided that this marks some sort of step in her quest to find out about her magic specifically. I mean, it's not specifically that she now knows more about her magic, but she has learned maybe that by helping spirits, what they desire or what they're hoping for, basically what's their last wish, this could also be beneficial to her. And basically what she also learned from the experience in the mines is that the spirits were helping her in a way, or helping them even to escape, maybe also warning them from this thing that attacked them. So she leans a bit more. She thinks now a bit better of the spirits, not just annoying voices in her head, and she's maybe not pushing them back entirely, but also embracing them a bit, and getting rewards from that specifically as well. So that basically means that I mark a tick in the quest or in the WoW of Katania, which isn't how 1 or 2 ticks. No, it's 1 tick because it's an epic quest. So this takes quite a long while until I could eventually fulfill it and basically retire her. I mean, she is kind of young, so it's expected for her to take a bit longer. Jebran isn't, unfortunately, not so doesn't have the advantage of age on his side. He's a bit older, and still has that epic quest. I don't know if I can even fulfill it with him. It's also a bit vague, maybe. Leave a legacy. So far he didn't taught much to Katania. But yeah, so they're standing now in the precipice. I mean, they probably spend maybe 1 or 2 days in the village. The villagers are happy maybe to accompany them. I mean, they're also waiting. I think in the last session they got also some of the boar meat as payment. So they're also maybe waiting for that to be fulfilled, to be packed into their belongings, so they can basically keep that for the travels, to have some sort of rations, or they're maybe getting also some fine boar skins out of boar skins, so water skins out of boar skin. Probably some of the older ones, because creating new ones with the fresh boar meat or boar skin is taking probably longer than just 1 or 2 days. But I guess the guy that said there, yeah, I have some leftovers, I can stitch you one up. So basically it's a trade-off. So I have a boar skin, I get one. So for me it's a zero sum, but for you you get the same price back. So yeah, so that's basically payment for them. So they're leaving now, again, into new adventures. What I maybe can decide is, because it's more or less a bit of a 50-50 chance. So are they just going forward in just finding stuff or something, or are they like checking for adventure, or are they maybe explicitly searching for answers, because they encountered these symbols which somewhat seem familiar to Jebran because of his sailor background, so to speak. So he has seen these like on the side of boats, some sort of like what they passed down for generations as some sort of good luck charm, but they don't specifically know. But Jebran guesses that maybe, and I think I wrote that down when I did my truth session, which is basically that the well, so in the plains it's the craft of agriculture. These enclaves to provide food. The mountain tribes the mountain enclaves are craft of mining and smithing. The sea has, of course, fishing and tourism. The sea and the forest have woodworking and herbalism. But I think in the forest enclaves, they will probably have the best, maybe a better chance to find something. So the forest enclaves is maybe a bit more on the spiritual side. So if not helping them with these symbols, if the village elders maybe for them can help them with the symbols, so at least maybe they could maybe shed some light onto the abilities of Katania. So that may be a thing to do. So they decide, okay, let's seek out maybe an enclave more in the forest. So currently now they have just had a sea enclave and a plains enclave. So would be maybe natural to maybe even walk even more into the mountain range. So maybe the mountain enclaves know something. So the question is if they would rather go and find out more about these symbols, maybe also about this iron in the blood, Well, apart from the normal iron you have in your blood. Or are they just, again, venturing forth, finding new adventures, don't caring about these symbols, but maybe just be aware of them? So yeah, it's a 50-50 chance here again. So let's see. 51 or greater would be that they, well, it's either one of them, so that they investigate the symbols further, and they will try to seek out a forest enclave first. So it's a 4, so no. So okay, so they just go on their merry adventuring way, don't caring about much what could go on. So I would say, so basically at that point, I mean, as I said, they're here in the village of Thornfields, and resting here for 1 to 2 days, waiting for their stuff to be finished, also resupplying, re-healthing, so to speak. So I would say at least somebody should go out and maybe hear around a bit. So they go. Yeah, so they go probably around a bit in the village. So they do gather information. I would say Katania leads the way. Jebran is a bit. Well, they're both more or less, but maybe Katania is a bit more empathic about stuff, and Jebran is, when it comes to gathering information, is more the shouty, fisticuffs kind of guy, and not really the asking politely kind of guy. And this is also maybe some part of like like sitting somewhere a bit listening to what goes on, maybe hear some rumors, what the locals are talking in the taverns, which may be again something that Jebran would be more inclined to do, just because he could be in a tavern and drink some ale. But nevertheless, I think Katania is the one that wanders around much more. She has still her like young adventurism. So she's young, she's full of energy, and she would be more likely to just go around in the village. And Jebran is more the kind of solemn, silent type. So he wouldn't go out and just do stuff. So long story short, Katania goes out, gathers information. She gets a weak hit, which means so it just basically says it's the information complicates your quest or introduces a new danger. So so she is able to gather some information. That this, I would say, is would be the case. So I mean, because if they're missed, they wouldn't. Well, it depends a bit. So this means that is a complication in the quests. I keep that in mind. So, but still, again, I check in the oracles here. So let's check for I could roll, for example, for a location. Does this make sense for a region? Yeah, let's roll for a region. So it's hinterland. So this would basically mean, well, this may mean, yeah, actually that it may come to some forest area. So maybe they get there. Um, um, maybe, you know, it could be. That would be actually be interesting. So let's say would be a location that is maybe so that is maybe contested by different enclaves. So there's like or maybe just even two, like a plains and a forest enclave that are bickering about the who was first, basically who has the right to the land itself. So there's like this village itself has like, so there's different mentalities within the same village. So there's like half of the village has more of a mentality of the forest enclave. So they're more inclined to do with nature. They listen or they are more on the ways of the wisdom of the elder. Whereas the plains enclaves is more in the nature, more can be tamed. Nature can be controlled, which is basically what they do by sowing crops, etc. So they don't rely on the forest giving them the food by like hunting and or scavenging for like berries and roots that they could eat. So they'd rather cultivate their own things. It's what they do on the plains, of course. So this may be also some sort. So nature has to be controlled, has to be tamed, has to be maybe even gets into the way of things. So if there's like a tree in the middle of a field that they need to plow, so they just get rid of the tree, which of course the forest people don't like to see, because the tree was first and the tree has been here long and should be remain there. You could easily work your way around the tree. So there's maybe this thing going on there, and of course the plains people, they don't believe in the wisdom of the elder. They believe in the wisdom of the many. So they have more the vox populi kind of approach. So the maybe more democratic approach. So they ask everybody, and what the majority of them deems to be good is good. So basically the democratic or vox populi way of doing things. And whereas the forest enclaves more has the voice of few, but the few that have lived longer, that have more experience in life, so they are more inclined to do better decisions because they can rely on their past experience. They know what works, what doesn't work, what maybe is beneficial, what's not. So there is a political, cultural discrepancy in this village. This would be really nice to have something maybe less in a sense of physical conflict. There's more of a political, social conflict, which is maybe something more interesting. So yeah, let's say that they pick up word of this village. So let's see. So which also makes it a bit complicated, of course, because because the village in itself is is like in this conflict in itself. No matter which side of the village you help, the other one won't be happy on what you did. So this is always a bit like the a bit of a problematic thing here. So the settlement trouble here is that an important event is threatened. I have to come up with an important event, but this maybe makes sense. So this because there is this constant conflict between these two sides, that there may be wanted to have some event, but everybody says no, we have to do it like that or do it like that. You're not going, or you're not doing the right thing in the sense of what the previous generations meant with that specific event. Could be maybe something like a harvest festival or something like that, which would maybe make sense, or a maybe like more. If we look back, so this is Ironsworn maybe is in a more Viking area kind of thing. So there's maybe things like solstices around, equinoxes around, so sun equinoxes, summer solstices, etc. Around. So this is maybe also kind of an important event for them at some point, because that marks certain seasons, of course. Of course, fall equinox is normally when you have the harvest festivals, because it is kind of traditional when autumn begins. Is on the fall equinox. Solstices is basically when summer has ended, or basically the half year of summer has ended, so now it gets colder again. So this is again some sort of important points in the back in those days, is of course it makes sense to somehow track the seasons in this case. So they hadn't had like this accurate timekeeping devices that we have now. So they had one, which is a big one in the sky, which is the sun. So we as human people discovered very early on that there is different seasons and how this relates to the sun and day length. So they still had some sort of measure on how long a day gets. So they would know at some point it will get shorter and at some point it will get longer again. So they had these. So that's why we have these rituals of solstices and equinoxes. We already know about the how the Earth travels around the sun. So we had some sort of knowledge on how this would work, or how this would, that there are like 4 different quadrants, and so this would explain, and they had a name, or they could part this into different seasons, which was how we got the seasons. So they would know, so because it's important for them, because back then we relied heavily on agriculture. So we would need to know when to plant things and when to harvest things. So it's kind of important to know which season it is. So they don't start and plant stuff in autumn, because then it will just be dead in coming winter, except for some vegetables. But let's keep biology maybe out of it. But yeah, so I mean, this would make sense that it's maybe some sort of such an event, and they're normally normally this are big events, because of course this signifies change of season, etc., etc. Especially in autumn, you thank they would thank the gods for a plentiful harvest or not. So this is where we have this harvest festivals normally when autumn begins. Maybe it's even later autumn. So that's maybe some excursion into human society and human beliefs and timekeeping. So it may be something like this. So this would make sense that such an event would be threatened just because of bickering. Nobody could do it, which is maybe superficial. If the event happens or not, time goes on anyway. But maybe for them, it's important to keep up with traditions, to keep up with semblance of normal being. Maybe even because harvest wasn't that great this year, or maybe something else. We will find out, I guess. And again, it's difficult it would be difficult for Jebran and Katania in total, or in completion anyway, because again, if they help the forest people, then the plains people would be mad, and the other way around, it would be the forest people that would be mad. So it's kind of difficult for them. So that maybe what's makes it more difficult for them, but maybe they don't know about it. So they just hear about that village where this important event that they have seems to be threatened, so they go off, and because of the gathering information has this weak hit, I decided that it has to do with this settlement being like being two parts of a plains and forest enclave that creates this problem specifically. So yeah, that's it would make sense. Okay. So let's also roll for a settlement name. This has always worked so well in the past. Stoneford, and that doesn't make sense for something in the plains and in the forest. Let's roll again. White wood. That actually would work for such a thing. Because it will be probably in some sort of forest area. So yeah, so let's call it white wood. Whitewood is where they're heading off for their next adventure. So so Katania is going around the village to maybe also like clear off a bit her head about the events about the last day, about also a bit to get together, because she has fallen down while trying to fight the boars. So she is also a bit walking around the village to recuperate a bit, to rest a bit. And it's where she hears about where she mostly hears about about the village, Whitewood as a village, and she basically hears like chatters that would be what would encompass something like have you heard about Whitewood? No. Events such and such might be in danger this year, and I mean they're like outraged, and she would gather like more and more information, made like rumors and stuff. So why this event would be cancelled. So they say, some say that a building burned down, and it was arson. Some say that somebody got mad and threatened everybody. So like just wild accusations and wild rumors on what exactly would be in Whitewood. They just say, well, yeah, that this important event will not happen, and we will again, I will have to find out exactly what that could be. But it's just, I mean, that's more or less all what Catania could gather. So there's this important event that's not happening. So yeah. So at this point, she goes back to Jebran and tells Jebran all of that what she has heard. Maybe Jebran is like drinking in the local tavern, drinking his sorrows over, like just drinking. For once he has some quiet time too, so let's spend it with some good ale. So she sits down with him, and they talk a bit, and she tells him what she has heard. So she tells him about, that is this, basically what opportunities might be for them to pursue. So she tells him about Whitewood, that they have some trouble. Apparently that there's like an event coming up that they can't do, so they might need some sort of help, which we could give them. I mean, it's better than nothing. We don't have anything to do right now. We can't just be here forever. So let's go to Whitewood and check it out, and if not, we could just stay there for a night and go further. But at least it's something to do. And Jebran maybe is under his breath and under his drinking is agreeing with Catania at some point, and he says, "Yeah, I mean it's getting boring here. Drinking is fun for some time, but it's at some point we should get going. He needs something to do, and if there's nothing in Whitewood, there's maybe a story in the travel to Whitewood. So maybe there's like something." They could maybe go hunt, so he at least get something to do there. So he's just bored out of his mind. That's why he's drinking, probably, because he's just so bored. Yeah, I would say, yeah. So they keep the night again here. Just wouldn't make sense to travel on maybe in the middle of the day. So Katania and Jebran gather their things, prepare to leave in the morning, and so they do. So they set up and leave for Whitewood. So let's see. I would say this is probably some sort of like travel thing here. Where maybe stuff could happen. So let's see what the challenge rank is of that. Formidable, which would even be quite difficult then to reach that, which is interesting. And let's see what the travel route is. 1d6 days. It's a 6 days travel to Whitewood. So it's quite an undertaking. So then maybe something happens in between as well. So let's just write that down. So it's a 6-day travel from Thornfields to Whitewood, which would maybe even make sense to some sort of thing, because so Thornfields is, as the name would suggest, is basically a plains enclave. It's maybe a big plain, apart from the hill where the Underkeep is. But basically it's fairly flat land. So they would need to walk quite a long time until they reach their next destination, which would be a wide road. So there's like a large plain where there's nothing for miles and miles around. So they just start walking, and they didn't. It would have been something that they could have gotten. It's like a horse or something, but doesn't make sense if just one person gets a horse. I mean, they could maybe finagle that they both ride a horse or something like that. So, but I mean, still, they just go along and travel the lands. With that. So they go along. They don't really. I mean, they could try to forge a bond with this village before they leave. But I don't think it's. I don't know if it's already. Nah, I don't think so. That is enough to form a bond with them just because we found out about the kids. Okay, so I would just say they normally walk the thing here. Undertake a journey. It's a week hit, which basically means, they progress, but the travel is hardy, quite difficult, and difficult. It's a long travel. I mean, it's 6 days to travel, which is taking a long time. Of course, the longer they are on the open road, as long as they are alone, they're maybe subject to wild, or they're more likely to run into wild animals or bandits, or are also like open in nature and open for whatever the environment throws at them. But they're able to make reasonable progress. They are there's nothing ahead. The weather is maybe okayish, so there's nothing. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. So they could progress normally. Of course, they use up some of their rations because, of course, they have to eat at some point. Probably mostly their food, the fresh boar meat that they have from the boars that they slaughtered. That they could roast them up. They also have some dried boar meat that they got from the villagers in exchange for one of their boars. Drink. They have probably enough water in their water skins, in their new boar skins, actually. And they could also refill probably this on the go easily. Easily on their journey, just because they have there will be probably some sort of stream or something like that, which you could follow and fill up. And they also have probably taken with them quite a lot of it. I mean, they maybe have 2-3 water skins. Now that they could have been refilled them in thorn fields as well as gotten new skins. So they should be fine, I guess, to use that. So yeah, I would say they travel without an issue like that. What I'm thinking about here is I roll every time for making a camp, just because they will at some point rest or something like that. I don't know, maybe for every 3 rolls they make for undertake a journey, they make camp, or maybe even every 2. So that like one is morning, one is afternoon, and then it's and then they rest. Yeah, why not? I mean, it's maybe also a bit with wishy-washy when it comes to how long it takes them to travel. But yeah, so they undertake more of their journey. And of course, it doesn't take too long as they get waylaid in their journey. So that's a miss. Although I rolled really well on the action die, the challenge dice are also really high. I mean, I rolled an 8 on action score and 9 and 8 on the challenge dice. I mean, it's ridiculously. Which basically means I missed. So at this point, they become sidetracked, I would say. I mean, as I said, the travel is long. The travel is maybe also a little bit dull and boring, maybe to Jebran. They become, or it becomes a bit, there's a surprising event maybe. So the question is, what exactly happened, or will happen? Maybe let's see what the Oracle can tell me. A friend, companion, or ally is put in harm's way, or you are if alone. What could mean harm's way? Maybe it's something easy. Maybe it's not something. I mean, I could not just go here and throw in a encounter with some sort of beast here. It should be, I think, kind of boring to just have that. Maybe it's put in harm's way. I mean, this basically is physical conflict at some point. Well, yeah. I wouldn't know if this really makes sense. Is there letting me like I don't doesn't kind of doesn't make sense. It doesn't don't like that. Is there maybe something else I can roll? I mean, again, I could use like do a rampaging creature or something like that. So maybe makes more sense to have some sort of environmental thing here, which blocks a path, which makes sense. So what would be something that they could encounter on environmentally on the plains itself? Oh, I know maybe what could be something. Yeah, that makes sense. So at one point in their travels, which is maybe it's kind of early on actually, they need to traverse a river. Yeah, that makes sense. They need to traverse a river. So it's not wide, but it's wide enough so they just can't just jump to the other side, so you have to basically traverse it. And it's maybe also not that deep, but it is raging. So it's a raging river, more or less. So that means you have to take a bit of precaution to when you traverse the river, of course. So let's see. Let's ask the Oracle maybe. Again, that's a 50-50 here. To which one of them is periled? Because a friend, a companion, or ally is put into harm's way, which makes sense. That, for example, because the river is raging and they have to, like, I don't know if they have to wade through the water. It's maybe waist high or something like that. So that they and one of them is not able, so they fall. So there's like the slippery river floor, or maybe even they try to skip or to walk onto some, so like a stone like bridge that there is, like stones that are in the water, where they can skip stone to stone to get over the other end, and just one of them is basically slips and falls into the water. So yeah, 51 or greater, it's Katania, and otherwise it's Jebran. It is Jebran. Okay. So yeah, being a bit older, and maybe not so nimble on the feet anymore as Katania. So Katania is able, and I would say, yeah, it's probably it's stone. So there's a wide river here. It's maybe waist high. It's raging. Nonetheless, and there's like stones that form some sort of form of path from one side to the other, where normally this is what normally people use to traverse the river, if not a bridge. But the next bridge is out of sight, so they don't know if they have to go down river or up river to find the bridge. So they don't bother. They see there's a natural kind of bridge here, so we can use it. And again, they are, or Jebran cautions Katania to be careful, which in hindsight is maybe a bit is maybe a bit unfortunate to say, but yeah. So Katania starts and carefully, or as careful as she can, walking over the stones to the other side, and she makes it. And then Jebran is then following her. And again, as he's maybe a bit older, he's maybe also not that quick in adjusting his weight when it comes to balancing on the river stones. So he slips and falls. So let's see at least if he is also taking damage. I think this is a face danger thingy. Probably. I don't know. And he tries to do this, speed, agility, precision. Kind of. I mean, I'm searching here for something. It's a miss, which is even worse. You fail and your progress is undermined by a dramatic and costly turn of events. Yeah, he falls down and he probably hits his head for the first moment. So yeah, he definitely takes. I would say he takes a harm here. So he falls. He falls down, maybe like hits, maybe not fully hits his head, but like he's maybe like stumbling and he's like falling on his side, and maybe he's maybe a little bit dizzy getting out of it, and he's falling into the water, and the raging water is picking him up. I mean, he's still quite a huge fella. Heavy fella, but I mean, at some point the water will catch him, encompass him, and push him downwards in the river. Well, for once down into the water, and down, of course, down river. Yeah, it's not that high, the water, but if you're semi-unconscious, if you're like dizzy and maybe also hurt from falling on your side, etc., it's probably not so easy for you to stand up and just keeping that, and especially if there's raging water, it takes a lot of effort and strength to constantly fight against the current. Which Jebran is definitely not being able to do right now. So he takes a harm. Isn't there like a move you have to do when you take harm? Endure harm, exactly. Then roll plus health or plus iron, whichever is higher. I think, yeah, health is still higher. Oh, no, other way around. So on health. Okay. Strong hit. Okay, so at least minus 1 momentum. I could shake it off. So at least he basically like yeah, I mean, he falls down on his side. There's a pain that shoots through his whole body. He dings his head a bit on the stone, of course, where he slipped down. But at least the cold water, like, basically, like, is numbing his pain in a sense a bit. And as adrenaline is rushing into his bloodstream, the pain, of course, also takes a bit of a sidebar. Right now, he's more in a fight or flight situation right now. Probably more fight than flight. So he wants to fight against the current that he is in, but still banging his head. He's like, sees like stars for a minute, and he's quite dizzy, and the water sweeps under his feet and sweeps him onto that's where he basically, so he can't stand right now, and he's taken down river as he's calling for Katania to help him, which is something that he normally is not accustomed to help other people, to ask for help for the people. But with Katania, he's maybe a bit more at ease in doing so. Maybe it's also something that she told him, or maybe taught him in some sort of to be humble and to rely on other people to help. So yeah, but he's currently dragged down river, a bit dizzy. There's maybe a wound somewhere on his body that he doesn't know. There's maybe like the water is has some red streaks in it from blood, maybe from a wound on his head. And he has to fight now to be not separated by Katania, and Katania has to fight and not to be separated by Jebran, and as well to stay alive in this weather. And I think that's a good time to end this session right now. So we're leaving here as Jebran is pulled down river after an attempt to cross the river that should have brought them to Whitewood. So yeah, tune in next time when we continue at this point. We will see how Jebran fares, and hear you next time.